Welcome to this Stateless Codecast. This is episode number 58 in our series nerddice.com, where we build a Ruby on Rails application for managing tabletop role-playing. And we are nearing the end of our little epic here to upgrade Rails from 7.0 to 8.0. So we've gone through a bunch of different steps. We upgraded Ruby, we upgraded Tailwind, and then we upgraded the rest of the bundle and went from 7.0 to 7.1, then from 7.1 to 7.2, finally from 7.2 to 8.0. But once we got to 8.0, at least running in our Gemfile and everything, we still had a few other things that we needed to take care of. So there was a code coverage issue that came up with regard to moving from 7.0 to 7.1. We did a little video on that. The code coverage reporting is still lower than it was previously, but I think it's okay in terms of the solution that we've got for it, and it'll go back up over time as we add more features. The next thing we did was we upgraded our GitHub Actions to make sure that we're kind of getting the latest and greatest from the default CI file that Rails started generating, I think in version 7.2. So we kind of looked at an app that I'm going through the Agile web development using Ruby on Rails 8 beta version of that book, and we kind of compared that CI file to what's in the GitHub Actions there, and kind of took the what was needed to continue getting things to work for my setup with coveralls for coverage reporting and Postgres instead of SQLite 3. So, but we kind of took the best of that. And one of the things that came up in that was installing Brakeman. And when we go and try to get some of these other kind of goodies that were added between Rails 7.0 and 8.0 that may not automatically get enabled by default when you do an upgrade by itself, we're going to try to get some of those working. So that's what our plan is today. And in this video, hopefully we'll be able to, if everything goes smoothly, get a pull request back into the main branch and close our issue. So that's if everything goes as planned, which if you watch the Tailwind video from this series a few videos ago, you know it doesn't always go as planned. So I've got this Gemfile up in VS Code, and we're going to take a look comparing these two things. We're going to upgrade and replace, kind of get the Gemfile in nerddice.com to kind of mostly mirror what's in the Rails 8 kind of by default generated application. And then I think we're going to do, and it came up via an issue about, hey, even if I don't have Brakeman installed, I still got a bin file when I ran Rails app upgrade. So my thought is, after we get all these gems in here, run a bundle update, we'll run the Rails app update command that we did from kind of all of our point updates that we were working on. One thing I'm going to do differently this time, and I kind of thought about it as I was editing some of the other videos, is where it gives you like the conflicts between all those files from the app update script. I'm just going to accept all of them and then look at the diff in the git diff command, because as I was going through, at least in my terminal running Ubuntu 24.04, I didn't get any sort of color in the diff that the Rails app update script was running. So I'm just going to kind of run the script and then look at the git diff, and then if anything I care about is showing as gone in the git diff, then I'll restore it back rather than going file by file through a less user-friendly version of the diff, and then still looking at the diff again later. So that's the plan. We will take a look at these two things. So on the left, I've got the Rails 8 app that I had from Agile web development. You can see Propshaft in that one, Sprockets, Rails in this one. So we're going to kind of go through and take a look at compare the two gem files and get them to more or less parity with one another. So first of all, you can see the default 8 version doesn't have the Ruby listed here. We'll see if we can just get rid of those two things. We're going to replace Sprockets with Propshaft. And my plan is for SolidCache, Queue, and Cable to use SQLite 3 and then still use Postgres as the database for active record. I might, after trying this out, change my mind, but that's kind of the goal here. So I'm going to change the comment here for Solid Trifecta, and I'll also kind of match the spacing style and grouping for how the other Gemfile is doing things. So we've got Propshaft, we've got both Postgres and SQLite 3, we've got Puma, import map, turbo, stimulus, tailwind, JBuilder, we've got devise, which pulls in bcrypt. So in the Agile 8 app, I did the Rails auth generator, and for this we've got devise here. So I'll kind of move bcrypt under here in case we ever decide to change our mind about devise. We've got tz info data, and we'll just use the current version of how it does this for platforms here, get rid of the repeat there. I'm not using any of these platforms anyway, so it's probably a moot point. And you can see here we've got Redis and Redis. I do not want to use Redis in production, so we're going to they're commented out at the moment, but we'll just replace those with all of the database backed adapters. Got Bootsnap. Definitely don't want to use sass-c. Let's see here. And then we want Kamal and Thruster. I will uncomment image processing if we haven't already used it. Obviously we haven't already used it, but we'll wind up using it soon. So I'll just uncomment it now. Development and test, we've got debug, brakeman, rubocop. I've just got set into more specific gems there. Web console, I have letter opener in my other app. I might wind up adding that back in, but I won't. If we do, I'll kind of add it back in as needed rather than preemptively. And then we've got Capybara and Selenium. And then in this, we've got coveralls and SimpleCov for our code coverage. So we will save that and we'll try a bundle update. Okay, we've already done the Rails upgrade here. We're not upgrading from an earlier version of SolidCache. We're adding it from brand new. So I think we're good there. We will now, I think the next step would be to run that Rails app upgrade script. So we'll do that. App update, not upgrade. Hit clear. And I'm just going to hit A here. Let me just check help all, overwrite this and all others. Yeah, we'll do that. Now we'll look at our git status and git diff bin. Okay, fine with keeping those as they are. And then config boot. So that just blew away the SimpleCov stuff that we had. It only took away there, it didn't add. So we'll git checkout head. And then, okay, those are just cosmetic for the most part, and they might wind up getting blown away when I run rubocop. Okay, we've got 2. So these are being generated by mostly the Rails app generator. I think I'm going to keep these 2. I'm going to keep them as Rails has them rather than how rubocop wants them. So I'll pause and make a quick modification here to my .rubocop YAML. Be back in a moment with the changes. All right, so what I did here is I took the name of the rule, so style global std stream, added that kind of roughly alphabetically to where it needs to go in the rubocop config file, and then added an exclude block and then the paths to the 2 files. So I'll save that and rerun rubocop. And now we're back to no offenses detected. Now I'm going to try to run my tests. All of that seemed to work. I'm going to take a look. One of the times that, and this might work now that we've got Propshaft installed, we're going to take a look at the application.html.erb and look specifically at the way that this is done here. And I'm just going to, so specifically looking at the style sheet link tab, just the symbol there, app. I tried to do that in the Rails 7.0, trying to upgrade Tailwind from 3 to 4. I'm going to see if I can get that working now. I'm going to just take everything except for the title and just overwrite that, so that way we're also we'll take a look next at the progressive web app stuff. I don't think I've really done much with the other Rails 8 app on that either, but at least it's there in the config and kind of more or less matching itself. So we'll try one more test run here. That looked like it succeeded. I'm going to also do this, trying to make sure that in the app itself that Tailwind still works. And we'll run kind of a full visual regression here. So stateless code at example.com, sign up. We'll get our confirmation link from the logs here. Control-Shift-C, Control-V. Email address has been confirmed. We should be able to log in now. Use the wrong password, and it shows up as invalid. Members area, back to welcome page, manage your account, cancel my account. All of that functionality seems to be working just fine. The other thing I wanted to take a look at was the placeholder stuff for that progressive web app in the other app there, PWA. I don't think there's anything in app views for that. So we'll just straight up copy that. It's all commented code anyway, but it's at least, we'll change the name, but still have something there to work with. So this will be, just gonna copy the relative path from VS Code. Actually, I probably need the absolute path. I do want to do that recursively. So now I should have in nerddice.com, I should have a PWA section here. Let's make sure that any reference to depot is no longer there. And that at least gets us to kind of the generated boilerplate placeholder stuff. We'll, if and when we get to that point, we'll replace it. So I think this gives us, the other thing we need to do, is there a Dockerfile? I do not see a Dockerfile. And I also, in the diff, don't see anything in my database.yml for, and we can just delete the new framework defaults there. So that file there, I can just, where did it go? Initializers. Delete you. Quote, strong bad. Deleted. All right, so remaining, we have a need to get ourselves a Dockerfile. We need to make sure that our configuration for SolidCache, SolidQueue, SolidCable is all squared away. Take a look at the other. So that's SolidCable, or solid related. That's solid related. Kamal will require a Dockerfile in order to actually work. So we'll deal with trying to set up the SolidQueue, SolidCache, SolidCable stuff first. So I went and kind of to each of these gems and found the README files for them. So for most of these, for all of the SolidQueue cache cable, it's just kind of Rails the gem and then install, and then we'll take a look at what that generates for us, and then we might need to change the adapters for those to use SQLite instead of Postgres. But we will just go in the order of what we've got in our gem file here. So start with cable. Do the same thing with cache and queue. All right, so we'll take a look at get status now, and we'll specifically look at the diff, and then we'll look at the new files. Okay, that's all fine. So we get serenaded by the bullfrog. Okay, this is our application, which we changed manually. Setup, cable, those are comments. Yeah, we got rid of Redis there. In production, using SolidCache store, and then queue adapter, we're using SolidQueue instead of Resque. And then let's take a look at these new files here in bin. Got jobs, thruster, and then we've got the config, cable, cache, and recurring. There's queue and recurring. That's commented out kind of as an example for us. And then cable schema, cache schema, and queue schema. All right, so we'll take a look at the DB here. Okay. And then I guess that was in the configs there that we need to specify. Yeah, that's giving us our adapter stuff and all that. So I'll make the updates there. All right, so based on this, for setting up development, and this is with regard to SolidQueue and SolidCable, but it's on the SolidQueue item here. You kind of want, if you are going to have it, you have your environment, and then you have, this is the database.yml primary, and then you've got like your cable, queue, and cache. Each have their own databases. So I'll show you what I have now in my database YAML. This is the old Agile Rails 8 app that got generated, and you can see the pattern there for production, and it's got kind of primary, cache, queue, and cable. So I followed that same pattern here. For default, we're still using Postgres, and then I added another kind of top level item here, Solid, which has an adapter of SQLite 3 and kind of follows the same defaults that were present in the SQLite generated version from Rails new. And then I started with development. I've got primary, so I had to kind of outdent that because it was just the only level there was default and then database. So I put that under the primary category there. But otherwise, it was just indented further. And then for cache, queue, and cable, I essentially copied what was in production from the generated version, and then had them each have their own kind of variable references that I can use for the rest of the other things. So these all inherit from Solid, but if you get into test, inherits from default, and then cache, queue, and cable, and just overwrites the database. And then in prod, it does the same thing, inheriting from cache, queue, and cable, and overwriting the database. You also need to now go into the cache and queue. Looks like queue, that'll all inherit from default is fine, but I do need to change the environment file to change my my job adapter from either async or test to the actual value there. So we've got development, test, production. These will all, I think we'll just make database cache as one of the default options there. And I think I can just get rid of that there. We'll see how that goes. Queue is looking good. And then cable.yml. So you can see there, async, test, and SolidCable, cache, queue. Cable, we're going to essentially do a similar type of deal with default here, and then it'll essentially have all of that will be there, and then these will all just now be let's take a look at what change in diff config environments production. So config cache store, go to development, test. So we've got the null store there, which we don't want. Where did production go? And we want that to do that in development, and then test had null store, which we'll update there. And then ActiveJob queue adapter is going to be, we'll just toss that config into both. All right, let's see if we can fire up a test suite and see whether we broke the world. Oh, I need to add the Puma item there from Puma plugin. We've just got that everywhere now, so I'll just get rid of the if statement. Hit clear, run a bin rails db prepare, and then see if we can get away with a test all. That looks promising. We'll run a bin dev SolidQueue blocked execution. It looks like it's running though, which is, let's see if we can. The main thing will be to see when we sign up for an account, whether the email delivery shows up in the logs for us. All right, it says the link has been sent. See other. I've got the link. And it looks like SolidQueue did stuff afterwards. Confirmation token is invalid. Confirmation token is now filtered in the job. Let's try that again. Maybe I just had the quotes in the wrong place. There we go. We're confirmed. We can manage our account. We can cancel our account. I think that's all working as intended. So we've got Brakeman, we're all set with. Propshaft, we've taken care of. SolidQueue, SolidCache, some more SolidCache, SolidCable. We've got Propshaft we've done. And then now we've got Kamal. And I think I just need to hopefully do Kamal init. Yeah, inside your app directory, run Kamal init. Created configuration file, created sample hooks. Let's see here. Still missing a Dockerfile. So that's, I think, the last domino to fall, and we'll get that taken care of. So it looks like we're going to have to do this the hard way. So I looked here, if you run bin rails generate help, it gives you all of the different options there, and you can see Dockerfile's not there. Oh, we want to grep it. You can see nothing there. So if you did that with unit, you'll get all the test unit things batching. So there's nothing there. There is Docker file generation occurring, but it looks like it's only in the Rails new in the app generator. So I've done a little bit of work. Both of my code pull requests to Rails have involved generators. So we're going to go into railties, lib, Rails, generators, Rails, app. And you can see in the app generator here, it's got this section for Docker files. So what it does is it invokes the template for Dockerfile, dockerignore, and docker-entrypoint, which goes into, those two are top level, and then docker-entrypoint goes into the bin directory, and then you're changing it to 0755, so it's executable. So we're going to go now to templates, and I'm going to take a look at docker-entrypoint, and we're just going to go into bin, create a new file. Docker, is that a hyphen? Docker hyphen entry point. It looks like we'll go back here and have this in the available to us to refer to bin docker entry point with a hyphen and no extension. We'll rename that. That's our docker entry point. We do not have skip active record, so we're just going to have to get rid of these kind of the template kind of if kind of language in all the stuff that we copy over. And we're going to 755 bin docker entry point. We're going to do the same thing now with our dockerignore. I think that's a .dockerignore. Yep. So we'll create the file here or copy the file name. This will be at the top level of the repository. All right, I'm just going to do it from the command line. And do the same thing with the Dockerfile. Oh, they exist. We'll get the content into our dockerignore. And let's see here. If keeps, I do have keeps. All right. Unless we are not options API. We did not skip CI. We did not skip Kamal. I think that's valid. And now what I expect to be the most complex of them will be the Dockerfile itself. All right, and we do have a lot of conditional language here. If using node, I am not using node. I'm also not using bun. The interpolation of that bundle path will probably have to touch up later. I'm not using node. I'm not using bun. I do depend on Bootsnap. We will leave that around. Okay. I think I've got Dockerfile min file fix-ups. Okay, continue on. I am not skipping thruster. Dockerfile base packages. Oh, this is... All right. We are going to go to what was generated in my Agile Rails 8 here. I'm just going to Control C and Control V it. Okay, this will become 3.4.3, and we'll add in, as we get closer to production, we would need Postgres, but I'll just add that to the backlog. The fact that it's there, we'll get the errors when it's time. So let's rerun our tests. Actually, we'll run rubocop here. 71. Now I've got one. Yeah, that is going in our ignore file. block length. Rerun rubocop. All right, we're good now. And test all. Test all is passing. I'm gonna get status here. Do a git add dot git commit. All right, I've got my commit message. Let's close all. Close all, they're all saved. Status, we will push to our branch and see if we have the same level of success in our GitHub action as we did in our actual local. So in nerddice.com, we'll go to actions. We will allow that to finish. Assuming it does, this would be our last check mark here, so we can open up a pull request to the main branch, and then provided everything goes well there, then we could be able to merge it in. All right, so our build has succeeded. I'm gonna run into the project here and ensure that we have a placeholder there. Yeah, that's probably around where it needs to go. So we are okay, I think, now to check off that last check mark. And we will open up a pull request into main. I'll write a pull request message since this is a series of commits here. All right, so I've got my pull request description here. I'll create it, which will kick off another build, pretty sure. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I have it just on push. Yeah, I've just got it on push, so there's no additional build to be done other than main will build after I merge it in here. So git status, we are up to date here. We will copy our branch name, git switch main, hit clear here, git merge, and git push. That should close our pull request. And it does. We can now close the issue. And then in our project, did our item move to done? It did. Expect that build will pass. If it doesn't, I'll come back, but this is the kind of the end of this kind of path to upgrading Rails on this app from 7.0 to 8.0. If you want to see more as we continue to build out this app, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Our next video might be a retro, so we'll see you then. Code along on an end-to-end journey through the creation, design, and development of a Ruby on Rails application for managing tabletop role-playing games. We start from Rails new and will guide you along the journey of the entire lifecycle of the application. You'll get to see real-life, real-world problems and challenges as we try to deliver value for our users. Visit statelesscode.com to level up. Thanks for watching this Stateless Codecast. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and spread the word. You can follow us on social media at statelesscode. Until next time, keep coding and don't aggress against peaceful people or vote for others to do so on your behalf. And then cable schema, cache schema, cache schema, and queue schema. cable schema, cache schema, and queue schema.
Hack the status code.
Nerd dice.